I think anyone can understand it, but it starts out with a question. And the question is this: if the fish is sick, what would you do? Would you treat the fish? Would you vaccinate the fish? Or would you change the water, purify the water, not just on the outside, but the inside? And if you ask any child that question, it's a rhetorical question, but if you ask them to answer, they'll say instinctively, they'll say, well, change the water. You see, the fish is only as healthy as the water it swims in. And when we realize that we are a body of water, just like the ocean that's behind me, and that water is a salt water, that's why we feel so natural in that water, because the pH is identical to the interstitial fluids of our own body. It's a pH of 8.3 to 8.4. Naturally, when we get into that water, that ocean of 8.3 to 8.4, our cells love it. They feel better. And simply all you need to do is manage that pH or that salty water. If you take care of the water, the cells will take care of themselves. And a Nobelist by the name of Alex Carrel proved that he could keep a human cell alive, an animal cell alive indefinitely. The death is not inevitable. Death is a choice by what we eat, what we drink, and what we breathe, what we think, what we feel, and what we believe. That we have control over this. In fact, a new study was just released showing that those who go to a plant-based diet and eliminate, fermented foods, eliminate, meats, that they will live 8 to 10, 8 to 10 to 13 years longer. That was just released. So it's a meta study, but it is true. If you want the angel of death to pass you by, you have to manage the internal fluids of the body. And that cannot be done by injecting or ingesting poisons or living in a polluted environment where you're being exposed by radio and microwave radiation. And so these are the two contributing factors that are making people sick: chemical poisoning that's being ingested or injected, or radiation poisoning that is now we're living in, thanks to the technocrats who've provided fast Wi-Fi, which in reality is going to accelerate the death rate in combination with the chemical poisoning. So those are the two things that we've identified. So very simply, if you want to manage the internal fluids of the body, you have to test the urine, or you have to test the perspiration, because perspiration and urine are direct products of the fluids that surround all your cells. And Judy mentioned this. That's called the epigenetics. It's the cell. It's the fluid around the cell membranes. It's the fluid intercellularly that's around all the apparatuses, all of the genetics. And so if you want to protect that, you have to maintain the alkaline design of those fluids at a pH of 8.4. We know this. If you do it, it's simple. You just provide the very compound that your stomach is producing every second, every minute, every weekday, every week, every month of the day. It's baking soda. That's how those who survived the Spanish flu epidemic, they took 1 teaspoon of baking soda, because that's what the stomach makes. It makes sodium bicarbonate, that simple compound which cannot be patented, cannot be controlled, that is totally alkalizing and energizing to your body, is what can heal us. Something that you can afford, something that is available, something that is natural, something that is produced every second of the day by your stomach, which is the major organ of immunity. I want to say that one more time. The organ that provides immunity is the stomach, because it controls the release of the manufacturing and the release of sodium bicarbonate to every organ and every gland of the body. The pancreas, what it's secreting? Sodium bicarbonate through its pancreatic duct. That compound by itself can heal you. Okay? And when you have good circulation and you're drinking the right kind of water and you're building healthy blood with high chlorophyll content foods and you're eating good oils that help build the cell membranes, all of these, I call it the woman's formula. Since I surrounded by women in my life, intelligent, beautiful women, the woman principle you've never heard me talk about, but I'm going to talk about it right now, okay? Stands for W is for water. And the reason I say water is because we're a body of water, and that water should be at a pH of 9.5 to 10, and it should be electrically charged. It's called oxidative reduction potential at a negative 450 millivolts or higher. There are apparatuses. You can test it. You can get an ORP pH meter and test this. So W stands for water. The O stands for oxygen. I mean, if you don't have water, well, you'll die in about 7 days. If you don't have oxygen, well, that's about 4 minutes, okay? So oxygen, and the right kind of oxygen. What kind of oxygen does the cells use? Does it use atmospheric oxygen? No. It uses atomic oxygen. And the body will split off the O2 into O1. Okay, there are compounds you can add to your water. One of those compounds is called chlorine dioxide or sodium chloride, which is the compound that produces the chlorine dioxide, which releases 2 atoms of atomic oxygen. So the O stands for oxygen. Okay, so what's the next letter? W-O-M. M stands for minerals, okay? And Judy already mentioned it. She says that our soils are depleted. So it really matters where your vegetables are grown, your fruits and vegetables. And so it's better that you know your farmer more so than you know your doctor, okay? Because if you don't know where your food's coming from, then how do you know that it's not laced with genetically modified organisms or chemicals like glyphosates, herbicides, pesticides, insecticides? There you go. What does it say?
This is ketone hypertonic cold microfiltered seawater. This is what I put in my water,
okay,
which I filter clean.
Okay, so we don't swim like goldfish in pure water. Yeah, I mean it's pure water, but it's not salty water.
Right.
The ocean is a pH of 8.4. If you reduce the pH under 8, all the fish die. The pH of our blood, which is the blood is the main, I call it the main stem cell that becomes other body cells. If you take the pH of the blood at 7.365 and you drop it to 7.1, which is 0.265, you go into a coma. It's called decompensated acidosis. It's the #1 cause of death. Okay? So the blood always removes its waste and dumps it into a larger body of water. That's called the interstitial fluids, which is 80% of the extracellular fluids. Blood is only 20%. So you can't really get good information by just testing the blood. You're only getting 20% of what's really going on. So M stands for minerals. And those minerals, that sodium, that chloride, that potassium, that magnesium, that calcium are critical in managing and maintaining the alkalinity of the blood and all the body fluids to protect the cell membranes and its genetics. A, what does A stand for? I'm going to be brief here. It stands for alkalinity. Okay, and the premise of my whole work is that the human body, this is point #1, hypothesis. The human body is alkaline in its design. pH in this acronym stands for perfect health. not potential of hydrogen. In this sense, I'm using it. Alkalinity provides perfect health for the cell and its genetics. So if you manage that alkalinity by using test strips, by testing your urine daily, and anytime the pH drops below 7.2, 7.3, you take an alkalizing dose of minerals. You take an alkalizing dose of the four big ones: sodium, potassium, and I like compounds like potassium bicarbonate, sodium bicarbonate. And this is what those who survived and prevented the symptomologies did for the Spanish flu epidemic. It's what those people are doing now is they're drinking salt water. They're drinking it either in its ionic state or they're drinking it in its complex state, which should be sodium bicarbonate. That takes stress off the stomach. So what does N stand for? Nutrition. Now, that's a huge word which has a lot of different meanings to people. Because to me, nutrition means maintaining the alkaline diet with an alkalizing lifestyle. Okay, I call it the new biology. I call it the pH miracle lifestyle. But why did I choose woman as the acronym? Because they're the caretakers. They're really, when we look at it, the true warriors. They support, but they're also now going out to battle and picking up arms to save not only themselves, but to save their husbands, to save their significant other, to save their children. And so I'm very happy that I can present this woman principle to you. And if you'll think about it, water, oxygen, mineral, alkalinity, and nutrition. And I've outlined this in a way that no one else in the world has done. I've literally tested the effects of specific foods and how they affect the blood and the interstitial fluids.
That's so wonderful.
That's not like the way the USDA has done it, which is they take it at a 5,000 to 10,000 temperature burn and then analyze the alkalinity based on its mineral content. That's not science. That's pseudoscience, because the body uses the whole food, and you have to analyze it in its entirety. If you heat it, you lose all of its acidic waste and you lose all of its alkalinity, its electrical contribution and so I analyze the food based upon the total content intact, and of course after eating that, how it affects the blood and the interstitial fluids. So I've made a list, and I'm happy to provide that to you at no charge if you can't afford to buy the book, because I want to make this as easy as possible to help people. And so I have one chart of food that lists mild, moderate, and strongly alkalizing foods, and a list of those foods in category, and foods that are mild, moderate, and highly acidic. And anything that's highly acidic, you just want to get it out of your life. And I'm happy to provide that as a gift to anyone. It's going to have to be a digital gift, okay? Because I can't send all this through the mail, but a digital gift through the mail of these two charts. And if you want it now, just go to Google, put in Dr. Robert Young, and you'll find those two charts. You can also find the cycle of balance, the cycle of imbalance, but the alkaline charts, the acidic charts are under Dr. Robert Young on Google, or I'm happy to send those to you, in an email. So anyway, that's my closing remarks to everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Young. That's what we're all about, providing solution in the end and action items. So anyway, by the way, before we go, just real quick, did everybody hear that they're easing down on the lockdowns and the mandates? You know why?